Sige na. Mubayad man ako, mama. Kung makakuha na siya siyang sweldo. Wa pa lang dyan may kabayad karon. Sus, ayaw na. Sige lang kag promissory note. Undang na lang kag skwela. Di man day mo kabayad. Valedictorian, Alexis Isabella Gabriel Durog. I just want to say to all of you that poverty is never and will never be a hindrance to success.
Wala pong pasok sa UP Manila ngayong araw bilang pagluluksa sa pagpanaw ng estudyante nilang si Cristel Tejada. Natagpo ang patay si Cristel sa bahay nila nitong Biyernes sa gitna ng umano'y problema niya sa pambayad sa matrikula.
Umapelaw pa ng ama ni Cristel sa Socialized Tuition and Financial Assistance Program noong Setyembre para ma-adjust ang bracket ni Cristel sa mas murang tuition. Pero hindi raw nakapagpasa ng requirements ang ama ni Cristel sa tamang oras.
Natagpo ang patay sa loob ng kanilang bahay ang 16 na taong gulang na college freshman noong Biyernes ng madaling araw. Namroblema raw si Cristel dahil kinapos ito sa pambayad sa matrikula.
Karapatan ng mamamayan, edukasyon, edukasyon. Karapatan ng mamamayan, edukasyon, edukasyon. Education for Sale. A documentary on the tragedy on the educational system of the Philippines. When classes open in June, many children and youth will not be in school. A study of the Department of Education shows that dropout rates for elementary increased from 6.38% to 6.81%. While dropout rates for secondary increased from 7.79% to 7.95%. The same report reveals that for every 100 students who enroll in the first grade, 33 drop out before reaching grade 5. And 31 out of 100 high school freshmen drop out before reaching their senior year. The trend for the past 10 years show that for every 10 pupils who enroll in grade school, only 7 graduate. Government statistics show that for the past years, there was a steady increase in total school enrollment. True, but they never acknowledged that minimal change in figures for school dropouts could translate to hundreds or thousands of students.
The 6% could account for a big number of dropouts. If the Philippines has 10 million students, the 6% would mean 600,000 students would drop out of school.
Students drop out of poverty. Although basic education is free, there are those families who cannot afford to finance other educational fees.
Mao na ma'am, o tinuod libre sa public school pero in town ma'am daghan pa kaayo og gasto didto. Projects, pamasahe, pagkaon pa ug uban mga bayranan sa eskwelahan. Wa na lang nako pa eskwelahan ma'am may ipagtrabaho na lang sila, makatabang pa sila sa among gasto kada adlaw.
Unfortunately, most Filipino families now have to make a choice between sending their children to school and spending their meager income on food in order to survive. On the other hand, many of those who manage to reach college are also doomed to drop out because of the high cost of private tertiary education and limited slots in poorly funded state schools. Many deserve to continue schooling, but because of financial difficulties, they are left with no other choice but to work for a better tomorrow. Just last May 7, Chad Region 7 announced that out of the 40 applicant universities for tuition increase, 37 were approved, 28 of which is from Cebu province. This shows the worsening situation of our education, where students are forced to pay for tuition, which is already very high and is at constant increase. It all boils down to the Education Act of 1982. For the staggering tuition hikes in the last 2 decades, by giving school owners a free hand in determining tuition rate. The Education Act effectively bestowed private schools limitless powers. There are schools like the Institute of Technology, Central Escolar University, University of the East, and University of Perpetual Health Rizal that figure in the top 1,000 corporations in the world. For the past 6 years, these institutions have ranked in 15.43 billion pesos in gross revenues, and yet administrations and owners of these schools never fail to hike their tuition fees annually. Schools are foregoing tuition increases, but they have been bloating miscellaneous fees, which are mostly questionable. Unlike tuition, miscellaneous fee hikes have remained unchecked for the last few years. Such tactic has proven to be very profitable to school owners. Unlike tuition, miscellaneous fee of all sorts are not included in the tuition increase consultations provided under CHED Memorandum No. 13, the guidelines for tuition hike applications. Questionable fees include redundant fees. These are fees that has common use but are collected separately at the same time. Like for example, athletics fee and PRISA fee in Cebu Institute of Technology University, and infotech fee, e-learning fee, and computer lab fee in Cebu Technological University. Exorbitant fees, overpriced fees that are far from its actual cost, like internet fee up to 1,000 pesos, and dubious fees are suspicious fees in terms of usage and non-relation to students' academic matters, like in St. Louis University, registration fee, admission fee, special exam fee, cultural fee, qualifying exam fee. If you happen to not review and check your tuition expenses, check it out. The rising cost of education in private schools has prompted a significant number of college students to transfer to state schools, but many of these transferees will find themselves dropping out of college. Because the problem is, even state schools are not accessible as they should be. One death is enough, but a second made it all clear. From Cristel Tejada to Rosana Sanfuego, their death painfully demonstrated that even in a state-funded university, poor students are not excused from the crunching violence of the system that puts profit before students' welfare. The government has been formulating several education policies and programs with the aim of improving the quality of education in the country, but it is missing the most important and decisive factor to meet this goal: spending more on education. Unfortunately, government spending on education has been the complete opposite in the past years. The Philippine government spent a measly 2.5% of the country's gross domestic product on public educational institutions in 2007. This pales in comparison to its neighboring countries, Malaysia with 6.2% and Thailand with 4.2%. Indonesia even spent more at 3.0%. Our parents would always say that what they can only give to us is good and quality education. Our teachers would always say that education is the key to success. During elections, almost all of the running candidates would promise that education will be their #1 platform. When politicians talk about national budget, they would always highlight education as their topmost priority. Our Constitution recognizes the role of the youth in nation building. It is in Article 14, Section 1 of the Constitution that the state shall protect and promote the right of all citizens to quality education at all levels, and shall take appropriate steps to make such education accessible to all. The government should give highest priority to education. But how come, despite the promises of prioritizing education, there are still a lot who cannot afford to study? How come the government did not provide sufficient budget for this? How come that the quality of education is still low? How come that there are those who are still out from school? How long are we going to wait until our demands for accessible quality education are met? How many Cristel Tejadas have to die until the administration heeds our call? Is this the kind of heritage the government wants for its youth? Is this the heritage that we want to pass on to the future generation of Filipino youth?
Noon, kailangan mag-aral para magkapera. Ngayon, kailangan magkapera para makapag-aral.
Unless the government reverses its present education policies and its thrust to hand over tertiary education to the private sector, and until it flexes its muscles to stop the unabated hikes in tuition and other fees, it will certainly bury the confidence, hopes, and great faith of the Filipino youth and the nation for a brighter future ahead.